Hey, I'm Rob from JTRpodcast.com and I'm going to show you how to play Bad Bones. This is a game for 2 to 6 players with separate rules for solo play, plays in about 45 minutes, is designed by David Flies and is published by Sit Down. Your kingdom is at siege by the living dead. Use your mighty hero and the traps at your disposal to protect your tower and your village. Take the least damage at the end of the game to score the most points and win. Firstly, put all the basic skeletons in the bag. Also add the skeleton chiefs. Put out the player aid board with a tracking token on the leftmost space, white side up. Players get the board with 4 tower pieces in the middle and a hero on top of the tower. The cemetery board is placed above and the 5 village tiles placed along the bottom. Players get 1 treasure tile. Lay out equipment on the table on page 3 of rulebook B and give each player 20 coins to spend. Choose a random start player. In turn order, everyone will buy 1 piece of equipment, and then in reverse turn order they'll do that again, and this will continue back and forth until everyone has passed. Weapons are limited to 1 per player. When this is completed, setup will continue. Draw 4 skeletons at random, 1 each of the green, blue, yellow and purple symbols. Return any red to the bag. Place them in the forest area of the board, white side up, matching the symbols on the board, ensuring each skeleton is facing upright with their arrow pointing towards the middle of the board. For example, the green symbol will see the skeletons placed horizontally, but the purple symbol, they will be vertical. The game is played over 4 simultaneous phases. Move the hero, place or retrieve traps, move skeletons and add new skeletons. Phase 1, move hero. Players must move to an adjacent space. They can move the hero into the tower and won't trigger any traps it stands on. If you move the hero into skeletons, return those skeletons to the bag. If the hero moves onto the same space as the skeleton emperor and the hero are removed from the game. If the hero kills 3 skeletons in one go, they may activate their weapon. Each has a different ability. Crossbow, return any skeleton on your board to the bag. Ice Wand, flip over all skeletons in one space, freezing them in space for a turn. Death Wand, the killed skeletons that triggered the wand go to another player's cemetery instead of back in the bag. Teleportation Wand, move your hero back to the tower. Two-handed sword, move your hero again, killing any skeletons as normal. Battle Axe, choose a symbol, each orthogonally adjacent matching skeleton with that symbol goes back in the bag. Morning Star, move any adjacent skeletons from one adjacent space to another space adjacent to the hero. Rapier, change the orientation of all skeletons in one adjacent space. It's important to note that killing 3 skeletons with a weapon does not activate the weapon again. Phase 2, place or retrieve a trap. Either place a trap from your supply, retrieve a trap from the board, or do nothing. Place a trap intact side up. You can't place a trap on another trap, the tower, and some traps can't be placed on skeletons. You can place traps under your hero. Placing a treasure rotates orthogonally adjacent skeletons toward it. The dragon can be placed on skeletons, flip and repel them. Move them to a different orthogonal space next to the dragon, facing away from it. Flip the dragon to its damage side. The bomb can be placed on skeletons if there's nothing else on that space and it's triggered immediately. Those skeletons are returned to the supply and the bomb is flipped. When placing the labyrinth, you choose a side, white or black. Traps retrieved from the board are returned intact side up next to the player board. Flip the turn token as shows and go to phase 3, move skeletons. Move each skeleton in any order, 1 space in the direction of its arrow, and flip it over. Skeletons facing the same direction on the same space can be stacked into a pile. Keep the skeleton chiefs in separate piles. The chief instructor goes on top of the pile. Skeletons in that space will change direction to match the chief instructor's direction. The pile cannot be separated. If 2 chief instructors are in one stack, choose which one leads. If the instructor is killed by the crossbow, the pile can be separated again. If a skeleton is moving in the direction of the reorientation arrow, rotate the skeleton. If a skeleton steps on a trap, flip it to damage the trap after activating it. If it's already damaged, remove it from the game. And it always counts as 1 damage to the trap, no matter how many skeletons activate it in a single turn. The Chief Saboteur destroys traps instantly and they are removed from the game, including those marked indestructible, but not the blast left by the bomb. If a skeleton walks into the dragon, repel them and damage the dragon. If a skeleton walks orthogonally adjacent to the treasure, turn the skeleton towards it. This overrides the reorientation arrows on the board. A treasure is not flipped when it's damaged, it is removed from the game after 1 use. If a skeleton walks into a wall, rotate them 90 degrees and move them onto the next space to the wall. If a skeleton walks into a catapult, put them all in the cemetery of any 1 player. If a skeleton walks into the hero, return it to the bag. If the hero is stood on a trap, the trap will not activate. If a skeleton walks into the tower, even if the hero is there, remove 1 floor from the tower for each skeleton. The Chief Artificer will destroy 2 floors. The Nice Chief will rebuild a floor up to a maximum of 4 floors. If the Skeleton Emperor walks into a tower, the player will lose and the game ends. If a skeleton leaves the board to the right, put them in the cemetery of the player to your right. The same applies for the left. If a skeleton leaves out the top of the board, you can divide them any way you choose among any other player's cemeteries. If a skeleton leaves the board at the bottom, flip a house, any house. The Chief Artificer will destroy 2 houses. The Nice Chief will rebuild a house to a maximum of 5. If the Skeleton Emperor walks into a house, the player loses and the game ends. Barricade. Instead of moving into the barricade, flip the skeletons and damage the barricade. Now, as the skeletons don't move, they won't trigger the hero if the hero is stood on top of the barricade. Also, they won't move if a wall diverts them into a barricade, and both the wall and the barricade will be flipped. Skeletons walking into a bomb are returned to the bag. Flip the bomb, the space is now considered empty and safe for skeletons, traps can't be placed on it. Portal, skeletons are flipped and put back to their starting space in the forest. Spring, throws a skeleton 2 spaces forward, skipping anything in the space they missed. If they land on the barricade with the spring, return the skeletons to the bag and damage the barricade. Hearse, skeletons and the hearse are sent to any opponent's cemetery. That player puts it in their supply and can now use the hearse. The hearse is indestructible. Labyrinth, skeletons can only move out that space if they match the colour of the labyrinth, otherwise they just flip in place. The trap is indestructible and stays in place until retrieved. The Spectral Chief, if killed, walks into a tower or your town, will return to your cemetery. Phase 4 is new skeletons. Draw 3 skeletons from the bag. If you draw the Chief Necromancer, draw 3 more skeletons. This ability triggers again if another Chief Necromancer is drawn. Put them and any skeletons in your cemetery in the forest as per the setup, either black or white side up to match the current colour of the round token. And the game will end at the end of a round when somebody has lost all their tower pieces or all their villages. The game will also end at the end of a round where the Skeleton Emperor walks into a tower or house of 1 player. Players score 1 point per star on traps on the board in their current state, meaning if they're damaged they're worth fewer points. Score 1 point per star on traps in the player's supply. As they are healed when returned to the supply, these will always score their intact side. Score 3 points per remaining house and 4 points per remaining tower piece on the board. The current owner of the hearse gains 1 point. And the player with the most points wins, with ties go to the player with the tallest tower at the end of the game. That's Bad Bones, a take that tower defense game. Please like this video if you found it useful, share it to let others know about it, and subscribe to the channel for more how to play videos as well as other board game related content. You can find me on Twitter at JTRPodcast and find my blog and podcast at jtrpodcast.com. I'll be Rob aka JestaThaRogue. Until next time, keep on resisting the horde, I guess.